Watch right now on the Front News project. Could the legendary Tomahawk missiles really strike military targets on Russian territory? And when will American patriots protect the Ukrainian sky? Xi Jinping stands up for the Kremlin. What kind of weapons could China transfer to terrorist Russia? And the fighting in Sumy region continues. The Ukrainian armed forces are hitting the enemy with its own weapons. Fiery, intense, and blazing footage from the front. Lions, watch it right now. This is the fourth year of the full-scale war that Putin's Russia started on Ukrainian soil. The Ukrainian armed forces continue to heroically defend not only their homeland, but the entire civilized world from the aggression of Kremlin war criminals. Greetings! This is Front News. I'm Volodymyr Tymoshenko. Over the next 30 minutes, you'll get the truth about the war uncovered by our journalists from the hottest combat zones. So, are you ready? Then, let's begin! And we are starting right away with exclusive material. US President Donald Trump is considering the option of supplying the legendary Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Putin immediately, to put it mildly, got very scared and ran to ask Xi Jinping for protection. And what do you think happened? Xi is now openly starting to stand up for terrorist Russia. The leader of China has announced that he will increase military support for the Kremlin in its war against Ukraine. And in general, the main Kremlin terrorist has rejected Trump's ultimatum and is preparing for a new escalation in Ukraine. Which regions of our country are in the highest danger zone? We'll tell you more about that next. And by the way, the EU is now openly saying Russia is increasing its use of chemical weapons on the front lines, which are banned by every possible convention. Let's look at all the details.
They're capable of striking targets deep behind Russian lines. The United States may provide Ukraine with Tomahawk cruise missiles. The delivery of Tomahawks was discussed as early as Friday, the 11th of July, but these missiles were not included in the final list of weapons for Ukraine. Nevertheless, Tomahawks could be supplied to Kyiv later if Trump decides to increase pressure on Russia.
Tomahawks fly at extremely low altitudes, taking the terrain into account, which effectively puts them out of reach of the Russian air defense system. The possibility of transferring Tomahawk missiles to the Ukrainian side would significantly strengthen Ukraine's position when striking legitimate military targets on the territory of the Russian Federation, especially considering the tactical and technical characteristics of this warhead and, accordingly, its range of target engagement. The Ukrainian side can therefore count on the supply of both aviation MUM components as well as land-based Tomahawk missiles.
Supposedly, even Trump himself called for strikes on Moscow. At least, that's what American media reported. But then the White House denied this information, stating that the president's words were taken out of context. But what is reliable information from the mouth of the US president is that the first Patriot missiles are already being shipped to allies, which means that Ukraine will receive them soon.
They are coming from Germany, and then Germany replaces them. And in all cases, the United States receives full payment.
Earlier, Trump threatened to impose 100% tariffs on goods from Russia if Putin does not reach an agreement to end the war within 50 days. But the prospect of tougher American sanctions does not frighten the Russian dictator, and he is determined to continue the war until the West agrees to his terms for a settlement, Reuters writes, citing Kremlin sources.
These are political statements from the Russian leadership, but the practical reality suggests the opposite. This is the visit of Foreign Minister Lavrov to the People's Republic of China at a time when there is a need to diversify supplies and goods, and accordingly to seek economic assistance from the People's Republic of China in light of the possible consequences of American sanctions. This points to a deep economic crisis in the Russian Federation.
And of course, China is more than happy to help the Russian dictator. After meeting with Russia's foreign minister, Xi Jinping stated that Beijing and Moscow should strengthen their mutual support and added that both countries are creating a model for a new type of international relations.
This is in fact a direct confrontation between China and the United States. Moreover, in this conflict, Russia has been assigned the role of a vassal to the People's Republic of China.
With or without China's help, Putin's troops continue to violate all the rules of war. The aggressor country is increasingly using chemical weapons in Ukraine, stated the European Union's chief diplomat Kaja Kallas. According to her, since the start of the full-scale invasion, the occupiers have used chemical weapons at least 9,000 times.
There have been multiple documented instances of the Russian occupation army using chemical weapons. This is despite the fact that the occupying country has signed and ratified international treaties on the elimination of chemical weapons and, accordingly, the means of their production.
According to Deep State, Russian forces have managed to advance near 3 settlements in the Donetsk region and another one in the Kharkiv region.
There are certain tactical successes, but they are on the Upol direction. It is no coincidence that the Russian occupiers are trying to intensify the nature of combat operations specifically in this direction. Their strategic goal is an attempt to reach the administrative borders of the Dnipropetrovsk region so that they can later use this situation as an element of military political pressure. In the Kharkiv region, there is an expansion of the zone of presence in the immediate border areas. This is the implementation of the Russian dictator's plan to create a so-called buffer zone.
Meanwhile, in Russia they continue to churn out fakes. Russian propagandists claim that an alleged Ukrainian FPV drone attacked civilian women near a house in the Sumy region. The women, it is claimed, were holding a sign that said they were Russian and were asking for help. However, this information is not supported by any credible evidence. The quality of the video does not allow the text on the sign to be read. It is impossible to determine who the drones belong to.
And now, a detailed analysis of the current operational situation on the Novopavlivka front. The enemy is becoming significantly more ferocious here as well, intensifying their efforts. On the Novopavlivka front, the aggressors tried 6 times to break through the defenses of our troops in the areas of the settlements of Piddubne, Voskresenko, Volnepil, and Shevchenko. The defense forces repelled 3 enemy assaults. 3 more clashes are still ongoing. Moments of silence here are a luxury. Every day the Russians shell the village of Mala Katerinivka in the Zaporizhzhia region. Aerial bombs, rocket projectiles, and FPV drones here fly in literal swarms. The locals have, terribly enough, already gotten used to these explosions and the buzzing of drones overhead, and have learned to quickly hide in houses and cellars. And while it's quiet, they try to live a normal life. Even the TSN film crew had to run from an enemy FPV drone. Kira Oves will tell you more about life in the frontline village. It's already become normal for us that FPV drones fly every day and strike the settlement. Civilian infrastructure, civilian vehicles, people are suffering.
Russian hardware fell near Natalia's house the day before. She and her husband were woken up by a powerful explosion around 5 in the morning. The woman says the drone hit near the tractor. The blast wave and debris damaged the house and the car nearby.
We jumped up and started to run. I stepped on glass because the window was blown out by the debris. We ran out here. A piece of debris fell and exploded. Everything was flying at the car, at the windows. There were fragments lying around here. As soon as we hear something buzzing somewhere, we immediately run away.
But you can't always hear the buzzing of a Russian FPV drone overhead right away. That's what happened when our film crew was recording the aftermath of the shelling. As soon as the sound got closer, we and the police officer had only a few seconds to find cover. Catching our breath and making sure there was no threat to our lives, we moved on. These are the conditions a community police officer has to work in every day. Before heading out, said he puts on a bulletproof vest. He always has a helmet, a tourniquet, and a device that signals when Russian drones appear on the horizon.
It intercepts the signal from an enemy drone and lets us know whether it's nearby or not. It can even intercept and display video from an FPV drone.
In addition to small FPV drones, more dangerous lightning drones also fly here. One of those hit the village elder's house just last week.
All the windows were blown out, the doors too, and they're so heavy, wooden ones, they were just torn off and thrown into another room. There was also this big heavy ladder. The 2 of us couldn't even lift it. I started looking for it, couldn't find it, it had been thrown all the way up onto the roof of the shed.
In Mala Katerinivka, out of 3,000 people, less than half remain. Among them are 200 children. So far, a forced evacuation has not been announced in the village, but the situation is getting worse every day, says Lyudmila.
We've already survived shelling with glide bombs. We have a street that was completely wiped out. A woman was killed. We really don't want to wait for more consequences like that. That's why we really hope the regional military administration will assess the situation more thoroughly.
Because of attacks by Russian drones, rockets and guided bombs, the once lively and bustling streets of Mala Katerinivka are now deserted.
It's very noticeable. See, as we drive down the street, there's no one around at all.
Well, these are our neighbors here. It seems we're still here. No one has left yet. But if you go outside to the store, there are hardly any people on the street. Every day something flies by, if not here, then somewhere else. It's very frightening. It's especially scary at night. When it flies, it buzzes over the house, and you have no idea where it will fall.
Despite all this, people support each other, plant gardens, take care of their pets, and help neighbors repair what's been damaged by attacks. And they are eagerly waiting for peace to come to their village.
And now let's move to the long-suffering Pokrovsk direction of the front. The enemy army's bloody rampage continues here as well. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian invaders made 28 attempts to push our defenders from their positions in the areas of the settlements of Poltavka, Novoekonomichne, Lisivka, Novokrainka, Zverevo, Udachne, Muravka, Alexievka, and towards Pokrovsk and Novopavlivka. The defense forces are holding back the onslaught and have repelled 25 enemy attacks. 3 engagements are still ongoing. Continuous assaults. Some enemy groups are being destroyed, while others keep pushing forward. The Russians have no pity for their own. In the Soledar direction, the enemy is intensifying attacks, trying to advance at least somewhere. If before duels in the fields were between artillery, now they are in the air between drones. We present to your attention a report from Donbass by TSN correspondent Ruslan Yarmolyuk.
While the gun is being prepared to fire, the soldiers are aiming using fresh coordinates from our aerial scouts, who have identified a target near Soledar. They're trying...
They tried there, but it didn't work out. They moved to another direction, but they advance in groups of 3, 4, sometimes 6, even 9 people.
There are many enemies. They move in from several directions, on foot in bad weather and on motorcycles when it's dry. The enemy is driven by deadlines and blocking detachments.
Can we say that they care about or protect their personnel? Number. In most cases, when we see their forward groups perish, the next ones just follow right after them. This could be one or more groups. In other words, if they have a task, they push it to the limit.
To detect the enemy and keep them from getting close to our fortifications, our birds are on patrol in the air. The lives of the infantry are at stake, so our crews are in the sky around the clock.
We detect their FPV drones and wings flying at distant lines. Those are the analog ones, and we take appropriate measures. Are there many of them? Yes, there are a lot.
While the winged drones are conducting reconnaissance, searching for targets among the tree lines and ruined villages, other drone crews are looking for infantry with drop drones or FPVs.
These days, people fear drones more than snipers. I mentioned that the enemy abandons their comrades and runs from the drone, leaving them behind for a long time, right on the roads. That's why they aren't retrieved. They rot there, people walk right around the corpse on well-trodden paths, go around it, drive around it, and the bodies are not returned to their families.
In the Soledar direction, the enemy is constantly rotating their personnel. There are more attacks now, and enemy soldiers who have been trained to counter our drones are being sent into battle.
The number of assault attempts has increased along the entire line of responsibility of our brigade. In other words, every day and every night we try to catch them. Very often we spend several days just trying to find where they've slipped away to.
Our howitzer fires at the coordinates of the grove where the enemy is gathering. The gun is quickly camouflaged again because their drones and shells come flying in response. Because of the large number of drones, we often have to get off the road and hide in the bushes, since something is flying overhead and you don't know if it's our drone or not. Especially here, right near the line of combat engagement, where drones operate 24 hours a day. At the moment, drones are hindering both our logistics and the enemies. If before there were artillery duels in the fields, now it's drone duels.
This is already a drone war. Both they and we are already struggling with logistics. Both they and we are switching to ground-based robotic systems. Drones will fight against drones and pilots will gradually become obsolete. Artificial intelligence will gradually start to replace us.
This is the war of the future, which we are witnessing with our own eyes. And even though drones are gradually pushing soldiers off the battlefield, for now they are irreplaceable. That means our guys on the front line constantly need reinforcements, both in equipment and in new personnel.
Well then, now it's time to analyze the operational situation on the Kupiansk and Lyman fronts. The Russian world continues here as well to destroy, kill and maim. On the Kupiansk axis, Russian occupiers tried 3 times to break through our defenses in the areas of the settlements of Kupiansk, Zelenigai and toward Peshanu. On the Lyman axis, the invading army carried out 12 attacks on the positions of Ukrainian units near the settlements of Novoyehorivka, Kharkivka, Karpivka, Zelenaya Dolina, Kolodyazi, Serebryanka and toward Shandriholov. 5 clashes are still ongoing. An unexpected turn for the occupiers, a robot from the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine opened fire on Russians in the Sumy region. Additionally, Ukraine has begun producing special cartridges to combat the aggressors' FPV drones. They can hit drones at a distance of up to 50 to 60 meters. At the front, Putin soldiers are also failing to carry out their leadership's orders. The Russian summer offensive is slowing down, but at the same time, the aggressors have increased their assaults on the islands near Kherson. Additionally, Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, has promised Russia unconditional support in the war against Ukraine. More details in our report. Fury in action. A combat ground robot from the main intelligence directorate destroyed Russian invaders with a machine gun in the Sumy region. The occupiers' reaction was swift. The Russians, in shock, spread this story among fellow soldiers, devising various theories. Where did this miracle machine come from?
It's a robotic vehicle driving along the road, firing a machine gun like a turret. Yeah, basically. Well, the Germans left this robot on the road and it was shooting.
But that's not all. The occupiers can expect more surprises from the Ukrainian armed forces. Ukraine has started producing special ammunition for shooting down drones, which can be used with standard automatic weapons. The Brave One Defense Initiative demonstrated how it works.
The Ukrainian side has already announced the scaling up of these means of destruction. Moreover, according to the diligent developers, every individual soldier will be equipped with a specialized magazine, and in the unfortunate event of a direct attack utilizing advanced FPV drones, the soldier can simply and efficiently change the magazine and consequently effectively neutralize the incoming enemy's aerodynamic means of attack, thereby ensuring their continued operational capability.
While Ukrainian armed forces master new fighting methods, on the front lines Russians have fallen significantly behind their command's expectations. The summer offensive plans have slowed, Ukraine's president stated. Zelensky also promised that AFU units would do everything to bring the war onto Russian territory.
Accordingly, the possibility of expanding the presence of Ukraine's defense forces in the Kursk region is being considered. At the moment, fighting is taking place in the Glushkovsky and Tverkinsky districts, and thanks to the successful actions of the Ukrainian defense forces, about 50,000 operational reserves of the Russian occupation troops have been blocked. In addition, the possibility of expanding the presence of the Ukrainian defense forces in the Belgorod and Bryansk regions is also being considered.
However, the enemy continues to advance. Over the past week, Russian invaders have increased the number of assault operations in the Pridniprovsk direction, including in the Kherson area. There has also been an increase in drone strikes and shelling of the right bank of the Dnipro. The goal is to capture certain bridgeheads and keep them under control.
This is the so-called 1,000 cuts tactic, meaning simultaneous strikes in several directions to divert the operational reserves of the Ukrainian defense forces away from the main axis of the occupiers' offensive, which is the Donetsk region specifically, the Pokrovsk, Novopavlivka, and Kostiantynivka direction. That's why the occupiers are also trying to expand the theater of operations to include the Sumy, Kharkiv, and accordingly Kherson regions.
Meanwhile, Germany has announced that it will no longer supply Ukraine with its own Patriot systems because the Bundeswehr has only 6 left. But Kyiv has an alternative.
At the moment, the United States has stated that it will provide Ukraine with the necessary number of Patriot systems, provided they are paid for by our European partners. Moreover, Germany has stated that they are in negotiations with the United States to purchase Patriot air and missile defense systems for Ukraine's needs and are ready to guarantee their payment.
Russia is also building relationships with so-called partners. During a meeting with Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, Kim Jong-un stated that North Korea is ready to continue unconditionally supporting all of Russia's measures to resolve the situation in Ukraine. According to South Korean intelligence, the Kremlin has received more than 12 million munitions from Pyongyang.
The North Korean Air Force does not have the capacity to produce such a quantity of artillery shells at once. But it is important to note that North Korea is currently one of the largest and most significant suppliers of various military armaments and essential personnel for the Russian Federation. This extensive supply includes, accordingly, advanced ballistic missiles, specifically the formidable Hwasong system, which is widely recognized as the North Korean equivalent of the Russian Iskander missiles, as well as multiple launch rocket systems, robust tube artillery, and perhaps most critically and first and foremost, a substantial number of highly trained personnel, particularly from the elite assault corps of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK Army.
In June, it became known that North Korea began building the largest military factory in its history. It is possible that most of the weapons will be sent to Russia. Now, let's analyze the operational situation on the Kramatorsk and Toretsk fronts. Let's be honest, this is yet another sacred goal for Putin and his entire pack. Accordingly, the situation here is also extremely tense. On the Kramatorsk front, Ukrainian defenders repelled 4 enemy attacks toward Stupochki, Bilahora, and Pretekine. On the Toretsk front, the enemy carried out 6 assault actions in the areas of Sherbinivka, Petrovka, Rusinova Yara, and toward Pleshivka. One battle is still ongoing. And now, some positive news from the front. The armed forces of Ukraine have recaptured part of the territory near Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region. According to the Institute for the Study of War, the Ukrainian armed forces have advanced south of Udachne. Although fierce fighting continues and the Russians keep attacking in several directions at once, Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv with artillery, drones, glide bombs, and intercepted enemy drones that we are now using against the enemy, TSN Weekly military correspondent Andrei Tsaplienko took a closer look at what is not shown at military parades, using the example of one Greenberry unit that stretches along the entire northern border.
Garmata.
Ukrainian military officials claim that the situation in the Sumy direction has become a little calmer this week. But this does not mean that the Russians have stopped storming Ukrainian positions. And now the artillerymen and border guards are trying to stop one of these assaults?
The border detachment Steel Border has all the elements of a full-fledged brigade. Units of the 15th Detachment are deployed along almost the entire front, but the north and especially the Sumy region are a priority.
Things are going a little easier now. We have stopped the enemy's advance.
Steel curtain.
The steel border holds. If you look at the map of the deep state, that small piece is exactly the piece where the border guards of the steel border are protecting our country today. And they really stand as a steel border in this area.
Moreover, the enemy is stopped here by a museum weapon, the BS-3 cannon from 1944. These usually stand as monuments.
And what are its advantages? Long-range rifle barrel.
That's what gives it its range, I take it? With their old cannons, the border guards destroyed an enemy self-propelled gun and enemy fortifications several kilometers from the front line with sniper-like precision. The enemy is searching for these gunners with drones.
We can sense that. We can hear it in the sky. It could be UAVs or some kind of Jaren or Shade. Got it. Target down.
Here's a Jaren drone that was just shot down, a cheaper version of the Shahed. It's unusual because Jarens are usually white, but this one is black, so it's harder to spot at dusk. But these vigilant guys took it down with an equally unusual weapon, which it seems they borrowed from the same museum as the cannon.
It's from 1949.
What is it?
It's a ZPU-4, and as seen from the shootdowns, it's effective.
How many Shaheds have you shot down?
Well, yeah, 15 Shaheeds. And this Russian reconnaissance drone was guiding air bombs onto Ukrainian positions in real time. This is a supercam which they manufacture, and our fighters shot it down. Most likely it was brought down by electronic warfare because it's intact.
In the steel border laboratory, they'll try to get it flying again.
We'll try to restore it.
Will you possibly use it as a reconnaissance drone against the Russians?
Well, I'd like to...
More than half of enemy losses aren't from artillery, but from drone strikes. That's why the top priority target that supercamps hunt for is the operators of Ukrainian unmanned systems.
Right now we've become priority number one. They're constantly looking for us, sparing no effort, even going so far as to use a large number of glide bombs.
And for now, there's nothing we can use to defend against glide bombs.
Attention! Glide bombs launched. Oh, that means we need to speed up and turn around.
This is how brutally and mercilessly Russian aerial bombs destroyed one of the drone command posts of the steel border. It would seem impossible to survive in such hell.
Raven, we're here.
But the guys survived. By a miracle?
Armageddon. Just one big crater. Everyone started shouting, "Who's alive? Is everyone okay?" One of our comrades managed to get out and brought a group of our brothers, who started digging us out.
That's all for today. But very soon on Front News, there will be new unique reports from our journalists in the hottest spots of the war, gathered so that you know the truth. This was Volodymyr Tymoshenko with you. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones.